Hey, everybody, welcome to another Salt Project Community Open Hour. Uh, Here with, oh, it's still not working. That figures. Let me do this really quick. Let's try it again, shall we? Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Salt Project Community Open Hour. I am Jimmy Chunga. I'm your Salt Project Community Manager. Thanks for being here. This is Open Hour for June 15th, 2023. Got a lot going on, and let's just get right to it, shall we? Here's where you can find us, the Salt Project. YouTube, GitHub, Slack, Reddit, LinkedIn, the Hacks podcast, of course, with Tom Hatch and yours truly, and our socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Well, LinkedIn should be in it. Yeah, we got to fix that. We need to refine that a little bit. Anyway, that's where you can find us, and we invite you to check us out. Here's what's happening today in Salt Project Community Open Hour. We've got our general updates. We've got we'll talk about the Spugum. We'll talk about that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Salt Project website, and then we've got a demo. Really excited. Terminal Mage is here. Erik Johnson is going to be here talking about shell script and Docker file for Salt deployment. And then, as always, we're going to check our community forums with Thomas Phipps. Sorry, we've got Tom Hatch on the brain. Open hour. Every first and third Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's Pacific time. That's 11 a.m. to noon Mountain time. Excuse me. Our next Salt Project Community Open Hour is going to be on July 6th. This is something that is still a bit of a point of confusion for people. So we do not do Open Hour every other week. Some people are still of the opinion that we do. Now, we do Salt Project Open Hour the first and third Thursday of every month, meaning we're going to have a little bit of a break here until we all get together again. So our next meetup is going to be on July 6th. Also a reminder, we need you for Salt testing. We need to have all of our new releases tested. We need more and more and more testing. And then when you think we've tested enough, we'll need you to test again. So we're bribing you with merch. Some of you have submitted bugs that you have found, and we've got swag headed your way. Thank you so much for doing that. We've got t-shirts and tumblers and hoodies and all kinds of fun stuff. So if you find a bug, make sure I'm aware of it so that we can lace you up with some new salty swag. And we'd also like to invite you to join a Salt Project working group. We have several of them, of which you can join. We're going to be doing some work on the Salt Project working groups. We're going to be revitalizing them, revamping them a little bit in the coming weeks. And I'm very excited about what we've got going there. So get yourself signed up. saltproject.io/home/working is the regular address. We'll explain why you don't want to go there in just a couple of minutes. But if you want to join our Windows working group or our docs or, our formulas, we have a whole bunch of them. Hit me up if you're interested. You can just hit me up, Jimmy Chunga on Slack, or you can email me if you like at schunga@vmware.com. All right, so Salt Project user group meetups. It is the brainchild of one Nicholas Hughes. Thank you very much, Nick, for working on this. These are single-day events with speakers, recorded sessions, food, networking. You want to go to spugm or spugum.com to find out where these events are happening. These user group events are happening. These are in-person events, might I add. We should probably add that bullet to the group here. Very cool idea. I think there are some that are happening primarily in, Nick, help me out here. Do we have one? Is it in Maryland? Is that where it's happening? Yeah, that's where the biggest concentration is of people?
Yeah, so I plotted out all of the folks and kind of the radius that they're willing to travel, and it happened to point at Frederick, Maryland, which is awesome because it's really close to me. So if anybody wants to try and skew that needle at the last moment, go over to the website and let me know where you are and how far you're willing to travel.
All right, very good. Thank you, Nick. Also, on that note, many of you have asked about SaltConf, our traditional yearly event that we did for so long that we are not currently operating. We will be putting together something in the future, some things in the future where we can get together virtually and we can have some breakouts and some tutorials and some fun things like that. No name yet, no date yet, but there are some things that are underway and we're very excited about it, and we'll let you know about those in the coming weeks. Okay, now the hot ticket item of the day, the Salt Project website, saltproject.io, is currently down. A couple of weeks ago, Salt Project broke, saltproject.io broke. And we didn't want to let a good crisis go to waste. You know, the old cliche, don't let a good crisis go to waste. So when it broke, we recognized that there were some problems with having it on WordPress. And we have made a decision. The core team, Anil, myself, and others have made a decision that we're going to move away from WordPress. And so what we're doing is we're building a new Hugo-based website. It's under construction. It's going to be live soon. All is well. It's just taken a little bit of time to get everything up and running. In the meantime, we do have some resources that you can check out. You can go to Salt Project Community Slack, of course, which is, you know, our hub of pretty much all our communications. Also, Salt on GitHub, Salt documentation, the Salt install guide, the Salt user guide, and of course, VMware ARIA Automation Config, which is formerly Salt Stack Enterprise. All of these places have tons of resources and information about Salt. One thing that isn't on here, we do have our Salt Air series and all of the previous Salt Project community open hours available on YouTube. Just search the Salt Project channel on YouTube and you can get lots of resources there. And then there's Item Project website, itemproject.io. The reason I bring that one up is because A, Item Project is very cool. And B, if you have any needs in the Salty store, if you'd like to access the Salty store for anything, you can do so simply by going through itemproject.io and it connects you to the Salt Project store as well. All right. Moving right along here, Erik Johnson is here. He's known as Terminal Mage on Slack. Many of you know him. Erik, thanks for being here. He's going to be doing our demo today. The time is yours, sir. Erik, are you with us? Do we not have Erik with us?
Erik is not with us.
Oh, no. I wonder, well, something must have come up. Oh, that's horrible. All right. Anybody else have any demos? I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's move over to Thomas Phipps, and we'll see if Thomas can help us while we're trying to find out where Erik is. I'll send him a quick Slack. Thomas, if you would, sir.
Yeah, it looks like I forgot to save my slide. I was going to talk about reactors because somebody over on Reddit was having a very difficult time with setting them up. Basically, if you want to mess with reactors, one of the best things to do is set the master into trace level logging, not debug. Debug doesn't put as much information as trace does. Trace will at least show you some of the reactors trying to react. And watch the event bus to figure out what the events coming in are. However, one of the most important things, and what this one came down to, is watch out for typos. I made a typo in my example to him, and he made a typo in calling it reactors in the config instead of reactor. So always watch out for typos because it's YAML, depending on the type of typo, you either might not launch because it's just not declarative YAML. Oh yes, and remember to turn trace level logging off when you're done because trace level logging is huge. But yeah, if you have a typo like forgetting a colon, you could end up with the master just not starting. But if you end up with a typo where you just like reactors instead of reactor, it'll launch, it'll act like it's working, it'll tell you it's reading the config. It just won't do anything because it's the wrong config, but the master can accept configs for things that don't exist.
Very good. Anything else, Thomas?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay, well, I have pinged Erik, and hopefully he'll be along shortly. In the meantime, maybe we can just jump to our Q&A and go through anything that we may have while I'm trying to run him down, find out what's going on. Any questions about anything that's happening with regard to Salt Project? Nick, do you have anything right up front? Nothing from Nick Hughes today.
I have several, if you're tolerant.
Hey, yeah, absolutely, Hunter. The time is yours, man. And I'll see if I can find Erik.
The first question is hopefully it's pretty simple. It was suggested based on my demo last time to try and write a SEP or at least propose a SEP. Is there a good SEP example that people like to base on? Any particular one? No?
I would say pick and choose.
Okay.
there's
So
there's
so
no
there's not one that's
particular
so there's not one that's well respected by the
Mhm.
developers.
No, they are all respected by the developers.
Well,
But,
yeah,
I mean,
even
how
the-
well they're written. Okay.
Don't follow the pillar one that I wrote because it's more humor based, but
Okay. The second one is in the implementation for Salt Cloud, the Parallels driver mentions a VPS system, and there's a link on that documentation page, but that link is dead, and Google shows nothing for Parallel and VPS. Does anybody know what that was referring to? Was that a cloud system that they had?
You say that one more time?
In the documentation page for Salt Cloud on the Parallels driver page, so the Parallels driver within Salt Cloud, there is a link that's dead. It refers back to a Parallels web page, and it says this implements the Parallels VPS system, but I can't find any hits for Google for any such thing, and I was wondering if anybody knew what that was talking about. I had a user ask me about that this week. Okay, I'm hitting zero.
Not offhand, no.
You've stumped everyone, Hunter.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Let me try a different one. This is not really.
I just
Go for
found
it,
an
Tom.
old conversation about it. And it's basically talking about VPS hosting.
So it is some sort of, so it's not meaning, it doesn't work with Parallels running on your local Mac. It's some sort of cloud thing they had at some point.
I think this is pre-cloud.
Okay. So we'll cross that one off. I wanted to bring up something in Homebrew, which is the one of the more popular, maybe the more popular package systems for Mac OS. Salt has been deprecated. And the reason for it is because Salt is including the Python interpreter in Salt Relinv. I wanted to point that out to the community as extremely unfortunate, because a lot of people get started with Salt by deploying it through Brew on their machine and then playing around with it. I think that'll be an important loss to the community, and I was wondering if there's any, is there any way to maybe tune Relinv so that on certain platforms it just uses the system Python? I know that's kind of a big ask just to get Homebrew to work, but I think this is an important
we'd have to look at how they were doing the package previously. There's nothing in Relinv that would dictate that they use Relinv, right? Like they could still, if they had a package before,
yeah,
and it worked,
Yeah.
it would. We didn't make any changes that would break their package.
okay.
Yeah,
I don't know who the maintainer is of that package. I haven't dug into that yet. I just was pulling Salt Cloud itself down to my Mac to try and figure out this other user's problem, and noticed that it's deprecated. It's listed as deprecated in Homebrew.
It's weird.
I
feel
just
like
wanted to bring that up to the
Homebrew-
community.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I feel like the Homebrew packages were kind of deprecated or broken even before we moved to Relic, even before we moved to like Wonder packages in general.
Really? I didn't know
There's
that.
like some other reason why.
I know that the Homebrew people are highly opinionated and strong-willed, and that's putting it politely. So this may not be something that's easily or collegially solved, but I did want to bring it up to the community. I think that's an important issue. my other two are about bug reports. I'm trying to implement a state. I'm trying to implement a formula that imports sub-formula files, sub-state files, but only if they exist. Basically, what I've got is a series of roles, and in our firewall formula, I'm trying to import any sub-formula that matches the name of a role. This is in GitHub bug 20010. I have a link for it. I'll put that in text.
Also, Hunter, just real quick, Elisa is posting in the chat. She's wondering if you can open an issue for that broken link so that we can remove it.
I will do so.
Yeah, cool.
There is a bug report already open, include state only if it exists. This pops around to 20010. The other one that's significant is 55072. There's some commentary in the bottom of the 10 bug that implies that this is a solved problem. And I was wondering if anybody could that maybe knows more about salt than I do, maybe kind of scroll through that and see if it is a solved problem, and maybe we could close a ticket or three.
Could you point me to those? Because
yep.
I'm not seeing the links.
Sorry, I'm putting it in the chat right now. There's one, and I think the other one that's mostly relevant is this one. But I'm going to claim that the 200 bug is the primary one. There is this one, but this one is talking about the same situation in the top SLS, and I'm not in top SLS. I'm in a formula SLS.
Okay.
I can post the code that I have, but I haven't been able to test it yet. If anybody wants to glare meaning deep hatred at me. Where am I? Firewall.
And while we're searching for this, we'll all be pleased to know that Erik has made his way. Erik is in the building and is available to do his demo. I guess he ran into some Zoom issues. Big shock.
This is it. This is your periodic reminder to keep it up to date. And because we don't use Zoom, we use Microsoft Teams for better and mostly worse. So I haven't used Zoom in many months, and so
and update it all.
Well, yeah, and then like the update failed twice, because stupid corporate laptop policies, and I had to navigate through a bunch of that. So yeah,
I got you. Well, if you could just sit tight, Erik, we're gonna get this stuff sorted here, and then we'll be right back to you for your demo. And thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it. Okay, Hunter, back to you. Sorry, man.
So that's the code that I have based on my reading of those two tickets, but I was hoping that we could, or somebody could, confirm or deny that I'm at least attempting to do it right, based on the state.exists. I guess that would be a function, and if so, I think 2 or maybe 3 of those open bug reports can be closed.
First off, is it working for you?
I haven't been able to test it yet. I'm on an M1 Mac. I can't get a damn VM open. So I'm working on it. Turned out this M1 Mac has led to a lot of yak shaving in our environment.
State that exists. New one for me. I'm not seeing that. I see ID exists.
Like I said, this was based on my reading of the bug report, so I may have this wrong.
Oh, SLS exists.
Well, there's specific mention about SLS exists, and it says not to use that one because, or maybe I have this wrong. It said not to use file exists because a lot of people have their state files or their formulas in getfs, where there is quote unquote no file.
Yeah, file exists checks the actual file system, but SLS exists would be, is this in the file tree?
Okay, so I have it spelled wrong then.
Yep.
Okay, SLS is oh shoot, sorry. Well, that's embarrassing. This is what comes from trying to read between the lines sometimes of some of these bug reports. Okay.
You posted the link right as I did.
Dang it. All right. So if looking at that loop, does that loop look plausible as long as I fix the misspelling of state.exist to SLS exists?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would also like with your pillar.get, just in case it's not defined, like you may want to have some sort of handling for that.
Actually, that's deliberately. That was deliberate.
Okay.
There's actually a comment above that in the file that I didn't post in here, which says, if roles for whatever reason does not exist, I want this to bomb.
Yeah,
and
that can happen with, and that'll happen, right? But it might happen with like a very, it might happen with a, cryptic error. So one of the things that we like to do is if we want to make those, if we want it to fail, then we want to be explicit and like check that if something is not, if an expected pillar value isn't there or an expected grain isn't there or what have you, then we'll look for it first, or we will check for non-existence, and then there's a group of states in the test module. So this would be like in the documents, like the test, whatever. There's a bunch of ones that they're primarily developed for automated testing, right? But you can make one. You can basically make a test that fails and then set fail hard true, even if you want to like abort without doing anything further. And then you get to choose what the error is, and you get to like sort of manually fail hard, and it just gives you a little bit greater control and it makes it a little bit more explicit just what the heck went wrong.
Yeah, to lump onto that, right? Like anytime you have render errors, which is what's going to happen here, you're going to have like a none type is not iterable or something like that if role's not there. And
right.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Because pillar.get is going to return a value. Although I don't know, does it actually give you the pillar.get function? I think it may give you an empty string.
It'll give you a none object.
It does. Okay, I thought.
Yeah,
okay,
it's a none.
All right, I thought for some reason it might be some. Okay, I'm probably confusing it with something else. Then there's something where I thought that the default value was a string, but
that's most helpful. Do you have an example that you could point to where you're testing for like a pillar or a grain?
It's all in our internal GitLab, so nothing I can link you to. But I would say like
I'll take a crack at it then.
Yeah, one of the things that we in these cases, you might do like a set, so like a set, and then like wherever you want to call the variable, equal to salt pillar.get roles, and then like and then you might want to give it a default empty dictionary, and then you can just do a truth check on that. So like if not roles, then you do your test dot fail without changes, I believe is the name. Okay. Is the one we use. The different ones are basically like they simulate changes, so you can test requisites and stuff like that. But so like It doesn't matter which one you use. You just pick one of the ones that there's even one called, I think, configurable test state, which lets you just control like every aspect of the return, which always I think is kind of overkill for what you need, right? So like test dot fail
without changes is probably.
yeah, and then you get to give it your own you get to basically control what the comment is and what the error message. So like you get to control what you see. So yeah, and then on the other hand, on the other half of that, truth check. So we typically do a negative truth check first, so that we have our error, and then the other half, like the else of that, right, is where we do our iteration. So then you just be iterating over the variable that you set. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like the example that both Eckhart and Gleason have put in. I'm gonna play with that as soon as I get done with my VM yak shaving efforts.
And so Gary's was like it's kind of like the reverse of what we. I mean, it's still valid. We just tend to like just just because sometimes if you have a whole bunch of logic, then just having like an error message at the bottom, like for some reason that's just not that doesn't.
Yeah, you can just flip it if rules not in pillars,
like
error
you would
fail
do it,
state, and then do everything else.
You could easily you could do basically whatever way suits your personal development style. We like to put our fail hards, higher up.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I'll code that out. We might actually add a macro for that or something, because in our world, if for whatever reason the pillar does not have the roles and 2 or 3 greens are not defined to be something's gone horrifically wrong, and we need to shut the whole thing down.
Yeah. It all boils down to like when something breaks, you want to have a clear indication of why it broke. And because sometimes we have people in our operations team because they're the people who like investigate the failures, right? And like when they see something that says like a none type is not iterable or something like that, they're not gonna know what the hell that means, right?
Right.
So controlling the way it fails can help a lot, especially if you're not the only one that's going to be troubleshooting the failures, right?
Okay. Well, thank you all for the assistance. I very much appreciate it. I have corrected my code here with the correct state name. And I had one more if we have a minute. I know Chunga's trying to get to a demo. Do we have a couple of minutes more?
I think, Erik, we're okay, right? You're okay on time?
Yeah, it's not going to be a long demo. You said we're going to the top of the hour, so like I don't think it would take me more than 15 or 20 minutes. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Hunter, we're good. Go ahead.
There's another GitHub bug report. This one is number 57541. Can I get to that one quick? 57541. This is the search that I modified for it. This brings up both open and closed bugs. The bug is specifically on using avoiding the use of deprecated net tools. Basically, on Red Hat systems, the old if up, if down, that kind of stuff. This switches out net tools, but does it touch Network Manager?
I think you've stumped us again, Hunter.
I am sorry. I'm not meaning to do that. I'm very much hoping
I don't think the two are related in any way, to be honest.
Are they not?
I mean, I would be surprised if at this point Network Manager had any dependencies on net tools, given that's been deprecated for like a decade plus.
Right.
It's either doing its own management or it's relying, or I would assume it's using like IP Route 2 or something,
Okay.
But yeah.
Just because we're running into some problems with NetPlan on Ubuntu, but we're also still running into problems with Salt on RHEL 8 and RHEL 7 and probably RHEL 9. I don't think we've tested on RHEL 9. It can't handle bridged interfaces for whatever reason. There's a bug in that code. It tries to force network manager to run, but network manager doesn't handle it. I know that's very vague. I'm trying to remember exactly how that broke, but basically we've had to force those machines. We have to turn salt management of the networking off on the machines that run KVM and therefore have bridged interfaces. So I was trying to research that. I didn't mean to stump everybody. I was hoping you would say, no, you idiot, look over here.
If you have a reproducible test case, just put it in an issue, and maybe somebody can jump on and try and help you through it.
Okay, I will do so. And I did see the note from Alyssa. I will get the that page notified in a doc bug. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time.
Hunter, it's always a pleasure, man. We love having you here, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are watching this on YouTube after the fact that are getting a lot of education out of having these questions answered. So it's all good stuff. Erik, glad you're here. Glad you made it. Glad Zoom is updated. If you're willing, sir, the time is yours.
Here, let me figure out how to manage screen sharing. Share screen. Okay. So this tool that I came up with about a couple weeks ago, because I needed to do some bug fixes. We are transitioning from CentOS to Ubuntu because CentOS is not, I don't know, gotten a bit crazy, right? So and we're not prepared as an enterprise to use like Rocky Linux or something like that, So going back several years ago, when I was doing self-development full time, I used to use a Docker image. Yeah, basically, there was this project which is now unmaintained, and basically there would be different Docker files. Each of these Docker files would did most of it, like mostly just did the same thing, like setting up salt, creating a volume, modifying the Python path. So basically you could mount your get the salt code, your git clone, right, as part of a Docker run call, and now you're running in a container. You have a shell, and you can run salt, and then you could run salt as you develop, right? And so I decided to try to resurrect that, but Docker has actually gotten some better tooling. Their new was it Docker was it build kit, I believe, yeah. This Docker build the build kit extension to Docker allows you to have like multiple build targets. You could reuse build targets. So I was able to take a lot of the stuff that went into this project and unify it into a single Docker file. That's essentially what this is. That plus a shell script which just automates the building and automates the launching of the container.
Hey, Erik, just real quick, Erik, are you sharing your screen, or
I did click? Oh, you know what?
Yeah, it's actually not sharing, so I don't want to.
You actually have to click another button after you click this. Again, I'm
Oh, you're good. You're good. No worries. No worries.
I'm used to Teams where you click the screen you want to share and then it starts sharing. So I didn't.
And now we've got your calendar, so we don't have the actual demo. We're looking at your calendar.
Okay,
right
well that's great. Can you tell I use Zoom not very much?
Yeah, listen, that's okay.
I don't.
We've all been there.
Okay. New share. There we go.
If you
background, Erik, it's just the wrong team. That's all.
it should be the Angels.
Okay.
There we go.
Finally. All right. So yeah, you weren't seeing any of that. So I'm going to go back into that to show you. So these Docker files, there's in this project that I used to use for setting up a dev environment. There would be separate Docker files for each platform, and it would install like the depth chain. It would set up your locale. It would set up the Python path, a bunch of stuff, right? And then it would it would do some pre-configuration for PUDB, which is an awesome debugger, Python debugger, and then essentially you would be able to do a Docker run that would get you into a shell on a container where you could develop. So basically, what this project is one Docker file using BuildKit, and it makes heavy use of arguments, so that you can change things like change the Python that runs inside of it, and other things like that. And so we don't need to look too deeply at the Docker file. You're welcome to look at it later, but basically all the logic is the same except for these platform specific things. So here we have platform specific for Arch. Here we have like Debian and Ubuntu both use the same. And then you'll see like a lot of these, like Debian is just, it's using the common, but it's not adding anything to it. You could add stuff to it, and it would do extra stuff. It would do specific stuff for Ubuntu 20, but there hasn't been a need for it. So other than these platform specific ones, you have all the stuff that comes before it and all the stuff that comes after it is reused. So you get sort of a uniform configuration, aside from like the stuff that's platform specific. And so the script, I just dumped the usage and like an example of listing the platforms. You see if I have. Okay. All right, so if I go to, so here's my here's my checkout of Salt, and from this root directory of the repo, I think it works outside the root directory as well. I think it discovers if you're not in the root directory of the repo, but I just tend to do it from the root directory. And we're gonna pick pick Ubuntu 22. I want to see if there's one that's okay. So this one was recently rebuilt. So it went through all the platform stuff. I'm going to start up a separate one, and we'll do it on one that I haven't done in a while. Let's see. So that's going to go ahead and it's going to start building. We'll leave that to go, but you'll see we're launched into a virtual end already, where we're using the PyEnv built Python 3.10, which is what the Wonder installations use, and then if you look at /testing, that is my mounted in Salt code base. So from here, you can just run. It's also configured with. It's also configured with local file clients. So this is mainly this is kind of the most often this is mostly tailored to my usage right now, and so my usage tends to be more geared towards states and execution modules, and so masterless is great for that. Because you don't have to worry about you don't want to worry about jobs or returns or anything like that, like returning back to or your master job cache, or you could have a very simple way of running your code thing like on this container masterless, but by default you could go ahead and comment that out if you wanted to. And then you could actually start up the daemons. Right now, this isn't running in a init system, but it should be able to support that. I just haven't built it out properly yet. I plan to do that eventually. So like and I do have this in here for like if you decide to run daemons, you know, but right now that would be kind of ignored. So if I run you'll see that we got 3.10, which was built via PyEnv. It's got what the Docker file does is it takes the requirements files used for CI and it installs those using pip. So you're getting the same pip environment as the automated testing. You'll see that it says we're on Ubuntu 22. So you could run any salt, any salt state or execution module from here. Let's say I wanted to go ahead and one of the things I like to do just as a demonstration. Where's that? Like, let's say I can spell right. Okay, so now if I were to do a test.ping, you see it's returning false because this is running salt from my local or my Git checkout here, So that's just a sort of a proof of concept that this all actually works. There's a few other things that are configured that I haven't. They're configured by default in there. Like I think there might be a pillar file, an empty pillar file. You could go ahead and play with the pillar data if you wanted to. Yeah, it's configured to load the test.sls, but as you can see, that's an empty file, So, so you could customize this anytime, but as soon as you Control D or log out of the contain of your bash session, the container is destroyed. It uses auto remove for Docker. So another thing you can do, and I just locked my screen. Okay. Another thing you can do is run. You can pass it arguments afterwards. Those we pass through to your Docker command, so you can actually use this to launch into a given platform, run a specific subset of the tests, and then immediately exit. So you could run your tests against different platforms without actually being on those platforms. There are some caveats with that, in that, and I've discussed this with a couple of the core developers. Just the way that a lot of the skips are being done right now, that they use platform.platform, and that unfortunately does not give you. It doesn't parse the OS release. And so returns information about like I think it parses uname, which is good, which basically it's like the kernel information basically of the parent of the host machine, right? So you're going to get inaccurate OS detection if you're running this under Docker. You're not going to. So you're going to you could be in an Ubuntu container and not be able to run Ubuntu tests. So that's something that for this to be more effective, I think that's something that needs to be fixed in the tests. There's a separate project that is used for figuring out criteria to use for skipping tests, and I've already spoken with Pedro on ways that can be augmented to, and then those new skip markers to be used in the tests, so that this can be an effective way of running the entire test suite. Right now, it's not. Let's go back to Still building. So you'll see, you can see like the stage names. This is the build kit output. There's you have your base. I thought there was one before that. Okay, well, like here are the only things that are unique to, well, here's the CentOS stuff, and the Rocky stuff does all that plus its own stuff. It like there's like, I guess Find wasn't installed, and yeah, so and then you'll see it has set up PyEnv. It's not using PyEnv virtual env because I found that PyEnv virtual env relies heavily on an initialized environment, which when you have like in a Docker build is not exactly feasible because, or it's at least if it is, it's a real pain in the ass to set up. Let's just say that, like, because every command is its own, or every, I guess, directive in a Docker file is its own stage that starts a new intermediate container to do the build. So I'm doing like a lot of stuff like I'm doing a lot of path munging in here. That would normally be done by like PyEnv init. I'm sort of reproducing that. So so that there's a little bit of magic in here to make PyEnv work. But you'll see PyEnv has installed this one of these here. PyEnv has installed 3.10.11 and there's a the right where you can see that it has grabbed the requirements file, or it's actually created a directory and then it's copying the requirements from your this is again from the Git repo, your local Git repo. It's pulling the stuff in static. So I believe it's requirements/static/CI, and then it's putting them into the container, then doing a pip install of those requirements, setting up PUDB, and now it's finished. So that I don't think it did every step, but that took what? It took a few minutes. I mean, let's see what it says. It took 9 minutes and 44 seconds. Okay, well, that's longer than I thought it would. But once it's built, it'll load right back up. So because it's already done all the build steps. So yeah, so there's not a lot else to it from here. If anybody has any questions, that now would probably be a good time.
Any questions at all for Erik? Erik, is this the end of the demo, or should you just do you have more?
Well, I don't have anything else to demo here. I mean, it's pretty much like self-explanatory. Like you run the tool, you with the platform, it builds the image if it needs to and launches into it. Like there's not a whole lot to it. I think long term, I would like to find a way to integrate this and make it just part of the project, just something that can be highlighted, in documentation, like, hey, if you want to hack on Salt, just use this. And so like this, I wrote a shell script just because that was the quickest way of getting something working, especially since you have to run a lot of shell commands. You have to launch, a Docker container. You have to construct a big Docker run command. I mean, you could do all that in Python, but it's a bit more of a pain in the butt. I know there's a tools tool. There's a tool called tools that is in the code base, and I don't know if that is the appropriate way to integrate something like this. But I think this would be a very very good way for somebody who otherwise doesn't have the know-how to set up a development environment, or is not as familiar with virtual lens or any of that. I think it would reduce a lot of friction, so my goal in the longer term would be to have this just be part of the tool set available to people who would like to hack on Salt.
Gotcha. All right. Erik, well done, man. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Thanks for working through the Zoom issues. Let's give a big round of applause. Round of applause for Erik. And Erik, for your efforts, I'd like to lace you up with some salty swag. So hit me up on Slack, will you? And
Sure.
we'll send you over to the Salty store and get you some goodies. Thanks again, man. This has been great. I know we had some additional questions from the Q&A section. If you can go ahead, Erik, and stop sharing your screen, we'll go back to that. Gary, did you need some time? You had some questions. Did you
Yeah,
not?
sorry.
Thanks again.
Yeah, just one quick question. I'm wondering if anyone has actually tested the VMware extension with 3006.1, because when I try and install it, it basically destroys the Salt installation because it has a dependency for Jinja less than 3.10. And of course, Salt has a dependency for, I think, greater than or equal to 3.10. I did a quick fork and fixed that particular thing, and it actually installs without destroying the Salt installation. But it doesn't work. I can't remember the specific error. I'll actually go generate a bug report, but I was just wondering if anyone had actually tested it or used it with 3006.
Good question. Anyone?
I would say as a guess, the fact that has that bug, probably not. But we can report that back to the individuals that are maintaining that extension.
Okay, I'll go file
That's something to
a
get
bug
fixed.
report on the extension.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Gary.
Anything else? Anything at all?
I have like maybe two quick ones. Well, one quick one, and then we'll see what the other one is. I just barely had my machine update to 3.11, and I haven't looked into it yet, but pre-commit is barfing on the check changelog entries hook. Is anybody running 3.11 that has run into that, so I don't have to reinvestigate?
I don't think we support 3.11 yet.
Yeah, the
It's
pre-commit-
in the works.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
pre-commit-
I that sounds understandable from a software perspective, right? But like, I should be able to run pre-commit hooks on 3.11 without it blowing up. So I'll figure it out and I'll send something back.
Pedro
So
has a
you would
PR right
be-
now. Yeah, go ahead, Pedro.
You would be so pre-commit, and especially some of the hooks that we are using are kind of picky on which Python version they are installed on. For example, I don't believe if it's Mac, but there's one that, depending on the Python version, makes different changes and assumptions. And so the best way right now would be to select the version that we are using on our CI pipeline, because that's the one that we are testing. We are, however, switching to 3.11 on the master branch, but so far that will be for Salt. Pre-commit and all of those toolings will also be updated, and the issues that I just mentioned will be addressed. But right now, the safe thing would be to use the same version as we use in our CI pipeline. And I believe it's 3.9, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was using 3.10 previously and everything worked.
So yeah, I would, if you can, try to use that for pre-commit. Probably just install pre-commit under Python 3.10, and then you can have everything else with Salt in 3.11. But since pre-commit is then discoverable in your path and is installed in 3.10, you should be fine.
Okay. Cool. The other thing was, I said I would bring it up. I know we have short time, so maybe we do this next time, but there was a community member that put in a documentation ticket and PR for it. And it was a small documentation change. And they were just, I guess, frustrated with some of the things that were barriers to merge. I think some of those have been addressed already with recent changes to processes and things like that. Like one was that it took a couple of months to get to the point where somebody was like looking at it. And I think Megan had brought up that there was a process change that folks should be communicating or approving PRs within a week or something like that. So I think that's going to fix that. But the other thing would be, it seems like when, and I don't know if there's any fix to this, right? But when somebody takes an initial look at a PR, they might be looking at some things, and then maybe somebody else comes along and says, "I'm going to do a review too," and then they find different things. So this particular community member thought that their PR was approved, and then somebody came and asked for changes, right? So I'm not sure if there's any fix for that, right? But like in the case of documentation, in this instance, I think it was that somebody viewed the RST and just like called out an indent problem or something like that. Like, oh, it would look better if it was actually like a subset of this thing. Whereas I think the first reviewer just looked at it and said like, yeah, those words look good. So are there any like, I don't know, process changes that could be had to ease that type of experience for community members?
Yeah, I can chime in on that. So one thing is that the documentation label didn't get applied to it, which makes it really hard for me to have any visibility into it. But if it has a documentation label, I'm pretty good at responding within that 1 week timeline. I do think there probably does need to be a communication. They probably didn't realize that I was doing a technical communication review, but it still needed a technical accuracy review. And those are two different types of reviews that are needed. And I apologize that frustrated him. I just think he doesn't know who I am and that I am doing a communication review, not a technical review. So I think there was some miscommunication around that.
Cool. So it sounds like maybe if we have, I don't know, like, is there anything in the PR templates or something that we could put in there and just say like, hey, here's the process, just so people have expectations on what they should be seeing, right? And so like now, if the new process is somebody should be getting eyes on it within a week, they know that they should be giving that week as a buffer. And then after that, maybe like trying to ping somebody or reaching out on Slack or whatever.
I think that one tricky thing is they can't add labels, and labels are the only way that I know it needs my review or that it touches docs. And that's where I kind of need to rely on the rest of the core team who does an initial pass and say, oh, it's a docs one, so attach the docs label. If it's got the docs label, it'll get done so fast, I promise. Assuming we're not in code freeze, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on that, but it's a little out of my control.
I mean, the other thing to consider on PRs too is that people are going to review them differently. Like I might see something that Pedro or Megan misses and vice versa. So like one approval by one of us doesn't necessarily mean it's good to go, especially if it's like a big PR that's touching a lot of areas of the code base.
Yeah, totally understand that, right? I think what I'm gearing towards now at this point is how can we be more clear so that people don't get frustrated, right? Like I'm just trying to make sure that people don't come through and have a bad time, whether it's justified or not, right? Like, if like, hey, this is our process. If there's somewhere that we can say this is our process, then they understand what they're getting into, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's fair. Nick, if you have any recommendations or if you have any like a wish list in your ideal world of what that would look like, send it over to me or get with me, and then I can pass it along to the core team. Or, I mean, all these fine folks. I'm sure they're, more than willing to talk to you further about it. Thank you, by the way, for pointing that out. And thanks to all of you for showing up. Is there anything else, Nick, before we call it a day? Anybody else have anything?
Nope.
We're good. Okay, so Shane is out. Nick is out. So I guess it falls to me to play us out of open hour for this session. As we all know, Father's Day is this weekend. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there, myself included. Happy Father's Day. I do have a question though. What do you call someone who tells dad jokes that isn't actually a dad? What do you call that person? Someone that tells dad jokes that isn't actually a dad.
Granddad.
A faux pas.
Oh, who said faux pas? Who said it? I didn't see it. I didn't see the square line. I didn't see the square line up. Who said it? That person. Jeff, you're getting swag.
Okay.
Good job, dude. Congratulations. It is indeed a faux pas. You solved the mystery of the Da Vinci Code. There you go. Congratulations, Jeff. Send me a Slack. We'll get you some goodies. All right, everybody. That's it for this open hour. Thanks for being here again. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Thanks for the great conversation. Erik, thanks for the awesome demo. And we will see you on July 6th. Happy 4th. Happy Father's Day, everybody. We'll see you.
Happy 4th, everyone.
Bye.